Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, when it comes to kicking ass on screen, sometimes the old ways are the best, and if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and in a conversational fashion. And you know, if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that you do, because quite frankly, you're listening right now. If you are, hit that subscribe button. Give us the old 5-star rating, smash that like button, and do that on your podcast provider of choice. We're pretty much available everywhere. Places like Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, and plus we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on the Facebook, we're on the Twitter, we're on the Instagram, we're on the Letterboxd, and we're on the TikTok. I don't know why we're on TikTok, but we are. For all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large. Because if we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it even more when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So please, pay us a visit. On this episode, we got a fun one. We are looking at something running in the heart of downtown New York as we speak. It was last weekend, and it's still this weekend. What we're talking about is we are talking about the Old School Kung Fu Fest, and it is the 10th anniversary of this festival. It is the Sword Fighting Heroes edition from our friends over at the Metrograph and Subway Cinema in New York City, and it is a festival that goes into the glory of old school Kung Fu cinema and all its different styles, and how influential it's been. It's really a great festival as it looks at so many of the films that have come out of China, Taiwan, and the Taipei Cultural Center, and there are so many people involved who really get this thing off the ground. And if you don't know about it, I mean, there are films like Touch of Zen, The Assassin, Fate Ali Khan. The first weekend dealt with a documentary called The King of Wuxia, which is about filmmaker King Hu. If you don't know, this man was a master of cinema and made some of the biggest and amazing pieces of glorious cinema like this that we've ever seen, really, in life. And I wish I was there. I'm in Toronto talking about this, but hand to God, I wish I was there. But we had the next best thing, because we had the unique pleasure of sitting down and talking with programmer Goran Topalovic about the origins of the fest and the origins of Wuxia cinema and King Hu, and well, we nerded out a little bit, but it's a lot of fun. And like I said, I really wish I was there. This is one of those things where I wish I could have gotten on a plane and gone down to New York to the Metrograph to soak up so much of this fantastic old school Kung Fu cinema, which, as a fan, I can't get enough of. But like I said, if you're in New York, go to the 10th Old School Kung Fu Festival, the Sword Fighting Heroes edition, down at the Metrograph. You will not regret it, because there is a ton and ton of beautiful cinema going on. But first, enjoy our talk with programmer Goran Topalovic, because quite frankly, it's a darn good one. All right, well, Goran, obviously, first off, man, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate this.
No, thanks for having me. Pleasure is all mine.
Now, I mean, it feels like a gift to cinema that this festival even exists. Can you walk me through sort of the origins of the old school Kung Fu Film Festival?
Well, the Old School Kung Fu Film Festival has its origins in how our organization, Subway Cinema, was formed back in 1999, 2000 in New York. We were just a group of Hong Kong movie fans that used to hang out in Chinatown movie theaters. watching a double feature of Hong Kong films for $6 and eating hot pork buns. And one day we decided, hey, maybe we should try screening some movies. And the five of us got together. We formed Subway Cinema. And our first event was actually a Johnny To, Hong Kong filmmaker Johnny To's retrospective. And then after that, we did the first Old School Kung Fu Fest. And the idea behind Old School Kung Fu Fest was to kind of recapture that atmosphere of Times Square in the 1970s when all the Kung Fu movies were making their ways to the grindhouses, starting with The King Boxer or Five Fingers of Death, as it was titled. So basically the whole Kung Fu invasion. So we really sought to find some of these old prints and to screen them at the first event. And it's not an annual event, so essentially we've been doing it kind of whenever we feel is the right time or when we have time to do it. And the last edition was in 2021, and it was dedicated to Taiwanese independent film producer, director, screenwriter Joseph Kuo, who was the mastermind behind the 18 Bronze Men, as well as 7 Grandmasters and Wu-Tang's favorite mystery, chess boxing. And this year we thought like, hey, maybe we can do something with Wuxia. And I mean, Wuxia is just there's so much to choose from within the genre. But we decided to put the focus more on kind of Taiwanese Wuxia traditions. And part of the reason was the new documentary film about King Hu was premiered last year in Taiwan. And we thought it was kind of perfect to kind of have an event around it and not only show some of the most exciting of King Hu's films, but also to kind of introduce some of these lesser known wuxia films from Taiwan.
No, I mean, for sure. And I mean, obviously when, general audiences think of wuxia, if they even know what it is, they think of something like Crouching Tiger. But I mean, obviously King Hu was such an influential force in the genre and sort of making these very iconic and very classic films. And I mean, after watching this documentary, like as much as I knew about Wuxia films, I felt like I knew nothing. It was such a masterclass. Can you talk a little bit, just sort of the importance of having, I guess, this as a centerpiece? Because really, for anyone who's a fan, I think people are just going to like lap it up and just want more and more.
Yes, that's a very interesting point you made, because the more I read about Wuxia cinema history and its tradition, the more I also realize how little I know about it. There's just so much to explore. And, when you talk about Wuxia cinema, we only know what we've seen and what we've been exposed to and what we were able to find. And yes, there's King Hu probably as the most well-known, filmmaker in the West. And certainly his films are the most accessible in terms of being available on video releases and streaming. But there's just so much more to it. There's this is not part of the festival, for example, but one thing that's never really been properly introduced is the Cantonese language wuxia traditions, which were kind of overshadowed by the Shaw Brothers Mandarin language wuxia, the new school wuxia that was kicked off by Cheng Che and the One-Armed Swordsman, right? But prior to that, there were all these movies that were made in Cantonese, that were wuxia, and like there's one that's famous, that's The Buddha's Palm, and they were really doing a lot of kind of almost like a superheroes type of mystical stories. Yeah, so it's such a rich tradition, both when it comes to the fiction and the literature, but also when it comes to the cinematic tradition of wuxia, and specifically the King Hu's impact and importance is really the key to understanding how the wuxia genre evolved and how it developed. Because everything that's done today, you can see the roots in everything that King Hu's been doing.
Yeah.
So there's really nothing new since King Hu in some regards, because he has really set the foundation of the heroic female knight errant figure, which has existed as an archetype in the literary tradition, but he has really refashioned it for modern audiences and for modern cinema. So Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, it belongs to that arc, right? That tradition. And so does The Assassins from Hou Xiaoxian. It's really his love letter to King Hu, when you think about it. King Hu has also nurtured all these great female actresses, from Cheng Pei Pei, right, from Come Drink With Me, and she was also in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And then you have Xu Fang as A Touch of Zen, and also the rest of his movies. Then we have Polly Shang in Dragon Inn, and we have Angela Mao in The Fate of Li Khan. And King Hu was also innovator when it came to how he orchestrated and how he filmed the action. And so the action in his movies is primarily based on the combat techniques and staging techniques of the Beijing opera. And I think he was really the first one to take those Beijing opera elements and make it work in the cinematic context.
Do you think that would be a fair comparison for sort of someone coming to this brand of cinema for the first time, to sort of compare Wuxia to opera, or would it be something like akin between like opera and Shakespeare, if someone was trying to find a line to sort of find their way into it?
Well, it's a different experience, and it's a different form, right? So it's theatrical stage performance versus you film something, you watch a film,
right? Well,
so it's like going through from and I think you do see a little bit of, there's some elements of theatricality in King Hu's work, how the characters are introduced. And it's also interesting how the characters, there's not a lot of character development, because it isn't really necessary. The characters are already fully formed, and they represent something. They stand for good or they stand for evil. And it's really just the interplay. It's just this big canvas of, so it's really, he found a way to take a theatrical tradition and kind of make it work from in cinema.
No, I think that's a fair point. Absolutely. Now, I mean, I'm curious because obviously, especially with some of King Hu's work, like I know from a North American standpoint, they can be licensed through Cannes Films, Criterion, that kind of thing. Yes. But I mean, there's other films on the festival that are a lot deeper cuts. I can imagine the logistics behind trying to secure rights to be able to show those is probably more complex than any of us could possibly imagine.
And yes, in general, that is a true statement, right? Whenever you're attempting to put a retrospective of classic Asian films, there are a lot of challenges when it comes to clearing the rights, like figuring out who's got the rights, who do we have to go to get the permission, and then what are the screening materials available, and so on. However, in this particular case, I guess it was a fortunate circumstance where last year, the Taiwan Film and Audiovisual Institute, which is sort of their film archive, organized a Taiwan Wuxia retrospective, and they have also restored a number of these older films. So, for about like half of the films in our lineup, it was kind of one-stop shopping. We were just able to go directly to them, and they also brokered all the rights with the rights holders for us. So they were extremely helpful. So they just made our job much easier in that regard.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, I've got to imagine part of that is due to, I guess maybe the upsurge we've been seeing in the past few years. I mean, at least from a North American standpoint, how much more of the Shaw Brothers catalog, the Golden Harvest catalog, so like catalogs from so many of these companies, be it in Taiwan, China, are really starting to get licensed more in North America. From your perspective, what is it about this style of cinema that is seen? Why are we seeing an upsurge, especially now?
Well, I think we're seeing an upsurge when it comes to there are a lot of video labels that are catering to the cinephiles, and they're really focusing. A number of them, they're focusing not just exclusively on the martial arts cinema, but on Asian popular cinema in general, and the classics, Hong Kong action. And we were even seeing some of the Johnny To movies finally being released on Blu-rays. But I think there's definitely a dedicated audience that has grew up with these films, and myself being one of them. I can't even keep up with all the releases. And so whenever I see something, I gotta have that, but like you gotta save up for some of these Arrow box sets, right? Uh,
Yeah.
so I think it's a golden age for cinephiles in terms of how much care and attention is now put into home video releases, and just the availability of titles that previously were only available on maybe some pen and scan, or there's an audience, and we have distributors and video labels that are really catering to those fans. It's an interesting question whether are they able to attract younger audience who haven't grown up or are not familiar with these movies. I don't know, right? I mean, a lot of these releases are also kind of limited editions. They're maybe 3,000 copies or so. So that kind of maybe gives you the sense of of the size. And definitely, myself, I'm counting myself as a fan. I'm interested in this stuff, and I want to see more of these movies being released for my home video library.
And I mean, just to that, then bring it back to King Hua, but there's something about seeing these films properly on the big screen, which makes for a completely different experience. Like I've seen Touchdowns at home, I've seen it on the screen. It's a different experience when you see it properly.
It's night and day, absolutely. And I would just encourage everyone to see these movies in a theater. These movies are meant to be seen in a theater on a big screen with audience. Just feel that energy and how people are reacting to what's going on the screen, and just having the conversations after the screening afterwards. And it's just, there's nothing like it. We at Subway Cinema, that's our air that we breathe, and we love it.
No, and I mean, I love it too, because I mean, in reality, it's one of those things where if you can have this event and get a few people out of that sort of really wanting to experience more of this really immersive and gorgeous style of cinema, then I mean, you guys have done your job and then some. But I mean, I hope you guys have a great turnout. And just again, thank you for the time today, man. I appreciate this. And again, good luck with the fest.
Thank you so much, Dave. I do appreciate it. It was fun chatting with you.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.